I'm here at Ogilvy Healthworld to meet Helen Watson, Senior Strategist. Helen, I'll be co-presenting at the IMTJ conference in Athens. Helen will be looking at customer journey mapping and how to get the most out of that customer experience. Well, on the other side, I'll be looking at employee engagement and how to combine those two worlds together.
So, my name's Helen Watson. I'm a Senior Strategist at Ogilvy Healthworld. I mainly work in the digital team, brand promotion and digital, but my focus is on customer experience. So I really focus on how customers, so that's whether that's HCPs, so doctors, nurses, physios, you name it, pharmacists, and patients engage with different pharmaceutical brands, or whether that's hospitals or institutions, just general healthcare clients. So I really look at how those customers work with those brands, or how those brands communicate with those customers. What are the most effective channels, what are the most effective topics, and what sort of content, how do we create a value exchange between those brands and those customers.
So tell me, what do you think is some of the biggest changes that's happening in healthcare, in particular the way healthcare professionals are keeping up to date?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting shift over the last 5-6 years or so. There's been a massive shift towards digital, and how digital is playing a much more forefront role to doctors. We are seeing a massive influx of doctors Googling, which is scary to begin with, but when you've been speaking to various different specialists and they all say exactly the same thing, if I've got a question I can't answer, I Google it. And that's the shift the way the world is. They're real people, and they're beginning to act like consumers. They're beginning to act like real people, like myself, like you, and they're using the tools that are available to them, which is interesting for us because it enables us to start to use different channels outside what is deemed as traditional healthcare communication channels. We're starting to use a lot more digital. We're starting to use all sorts of online journals. We're placing content and making patient websites much more freely available for HCPs to engage with and use with their patients. And it's exciting because we've had to shift the way we create our content as well, because we're having to create content not only for the HCP, but we're looking at content that the HCP can use to be able to communicate with the patient with, so we're getting to use the same language, talk to the patients in a different way. So it's opened up a massive spectrum of communication channels for us.
And how do you see that affecting the patient experience?
Massively. Patients are becoming much more informed. They're taking much more control in their own healthcare and the way they're treated. They're often the ones that are going into the doctor saying, I've read this, I want to try this. So we're having to make sure that we're giving good patient information, that patients are getting the right information so they can have meaningful conversations with their doctors, and vice versa. We're having to prepare doctors to have patients come in and talk to them about what they've seen, what they've read in the news, or information that they found on websites, and they can have meaningful conversations back with their patients. So it's a two-way dialogue, and that's the way healthcare is moving. It's no longer doctor-patient, it's a two-way dialogue and deciding what's the best course of action for that patient.
Well, earlier we were talking about customer journey mapping. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how that both enhances the customer experience but also the employee experience as well? Yeah,
it's an interesting one. We're having to HCPs and healthcare institutions, agencies, hospitals are having to behave like brands, and one of the very important things for them is to understand how their customer engages with them. So the customer journey mapping is becoming a really important customer experience tool for us. So at what points are our customers engaging with our brand? We're very data driven. We have to be data driven to really sort of understand how our customers are engaging, when are they engaging, why are they engaging, and the three key things for me is what are they thinking, feeling and doing when they're engaging with their brand. So we're using a lot of data to be able to plot really detailed, really insightful customer journeys, and then out of that hopefully for really good engagement opportunities where we can have meaningful engagements with our customers, where we're creating that value exchange. And especially in the healthcare environment, our employees are obviously one of the biggest channels that they've got when they're talking to patients. So ensuring that the employees understand what the brand means, what it means to them, and they're presenting those brand values back to the customer.
Do you think that brand in healthcare is kind of a new concept, or is it now becoming a little bit more familiar?
It's a very different way of thinking, and I think a lot of people are still scared of it. Traditionally, brands has got a bad reputation and not necessarily a medical reputation, and I think it's a mind shift that a number of forward-thinking companies are doing and beginning to understand that they have to do. but it's slow. People are scared, people are worried because it's health, and it's a very important part of everybody's life. The shift is going and it's slowly tipping over, but we're not quite there yet. And I think it's important for people like ourselves to start using that language and not to be afraid about using that language in front of our clients, in front of our customers, so that they get used to hearing it and they get used to understanding that's the way they have to move.
Great. Well, we're going to be presenting together at IMTJ. So tell me, what will the audience get from your presentation?
Hopefully, fingers crossed,
I'm sure they will.
They get an understanding of how important it is to create realistic customer journeys. All brands have aspirations and they want to be the Apple, they want to be the Pepsi, but that's not necessarily what they're projecting in their brand. So we're going to take a look at and take a little bit of a step back and look at how do you put the patient in the heart of your patient journey. So we're going to be looking at data. What data do we use? How do we use that data? And how that data informs our customer journeys, so that when we're looking at how our customer engages with our brand, these are realistic engagements, not the ideal engagement, the aspirational engagement for that brand. So hopefully that's what people walk away with, is when they walk away from that talk, they're going, what are my customers thinking? What are they feeling and they're doing? And how do I get that information to understand that?
So I'm going to be looking at the employee experience and how they connect to the organization. So if you were to give me any advice on my presentation, what would that be?
To think of your employees as your customers. Again, they're the face of your brand, they're the face of the people that are going to engage with your customers, so they've got to live and breathe it. And if they're not doing that, then your customer is not going to be getting the best experience.
Well, I think it's going to be a great presentation because it's going to be seamless now.
It's going to...
Well done. Good stuff.